The Australian Army's longest-serving unit in South Vietnam has earned the reputation of an elite force of highly trained professional soldiers. Men of the Australian Army training team have served with distinction in the Southeast Asian theatre since their commitment there in an advisory capacity nearly 8 years ago. From the training team's ranks have come 4 Victoria Cross winners and more than 50 other winners of gallantry awards, making the team the most highly decorated Australian unit in Vietnam. The role of the advisors is to train and advise soldiers of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, the ARVN, mainly in the northern provinces. Over the years, the strength of the training team has been increased to 100 from an original 30, all officers and warrant officers employed with operational units of the ARVN and Special Forces, such as Mike Force, a mobile strike force for which Montagnard tribesmen are trained by Australians. At Pleiku in central South Vietnam, several Australians use their military skill to turn raw Montagnard recruits into efficient combat soldiers. Success of their training and leadership has been demonstrated many times in engagements with the enemy. The Australians not only train recruits, they also give advanced training to Montagnards who have graduated as instructors, grooming them as future platoon commanders. Instructions in the training company are passed through interpreters to correct the recruits' drill. These Montagnards attached to Mike Force are also trained to parachute into battle, although usually they move by helicopters. Physical fitness, agility and precise drills are essential for military parachuting, and hours of ground training is necessary before a soldier can progress to jumping from an aircraft. How to leave the aircraft, how to control the parachute during the descent, how to land and absorb the shock of the fall as they hit the ground. All are important drills to be learnt. The 6 weeks basic training given to the Montagnard recruits is based on Australian recruit training. The Nuggety tribesmen show outstanding aptitude in weapon handling and minor tactics, which form the bulk of the training program at Pleiku. In combat, the advisors work essentially as commanders, side by side with the senior Montagnards. Of the many automatic and self-loading weapons in which the Montagnards are instructed, the hard-hitting M60 general-purpose machine gun is considered one of the most important. The 60mm mortar is also a potent weapon. With a rate of fire of from 20 to 35 rounds a minute, they can fire high explosives, smoke bombs, and illuminating flares. Of the 100 hand-picked men of the Australian Army training team in Vietnam, 6 members of the Royal Australian Armoured Corps serve with Vietnamese armoured units. These advisors work closely with Vietnamese troop commanders, who have great respect for the Australians' professional ability. Readily accepting the Vietnamese way of life, the Australians have little trouble mixing. South of Saigon, in the Mekong Delta, which forms the southern quarter of South Vietnam, 12 advisors are carrying out a unique task. In this broad, flat area, interlaced by innumerable canals and by the branches of the Mekong River, the Australians advise the Vietnamese on the best way of setting up comprehensive defence systems for their villages. The Australians are allotted to what are known as village defence advisory teams. There were marked results, particularly in 2 of the 4 main provinces of the Delta in the first 6 months of the village defence scheme. On arriving in a new location, the team verifies information previously obtained about the village, including the strength of the defence elements resident in and available to the village, what artillery and other support can be called upon, the political and economic structure of the village, and the current enemy situation in the area. Then the work of examining the local situation to either improve the existing defence plan or draw up a new one can begin. The Australians closely supervise training of the village defence elements, noting and advising on their operational procedures. The People's Self-Defence Force is trained by South Vietnamese soldiers, and the Australians' major task is to coordinate this force with other regional force elements in a village to enable the people to protect their own hamlets. All the Australian advisors have had years of military experience, and some of them have had 2 and 3 12-month tours in Vietnam. The hamlet defences are vital, and often it's been only the advice and skill of the Australian advisor in correctly siting these defences which has prevented an area being overrun by Viet Cong. Frequently, the Australians and the villagers confer on tactics to be used in the event of an attack. Before the Australian and other Allied help, some of these villages were at the mercy of terrorists. Village headmen and elders, if they showed any loyalty to the government, were killed. Terrorists extracted food, money, recruits and labour forces from the villages. They closed down schools and suppressed trade and contact with outsiders. The village defence advisory teams are often involved in civic action work and other aspects of village life, thus helping the Australians to become fully accepted by the people. Early starts in creating goodwill in the villages are made with the distribution of gift packages containing educational aids and other useful commodities. About a third of the population of the Tu Can district, where the Australians have directed much of their attention, is Cambodian. About 40% of the land is Viet Cong controlled, yet 85% of the population lives in government-controlled areas. Because of the work of the Australian Army training team among the villagers of the Mekong Delta, more people are now moving into the government-controlled areas.